Have you had the appetizers? They're really good. They're a little bit spicy if you like spicy.
We're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple of minutes here. I wanted to let everybody know we're taking orders. If you want to place an order now for food, we're going to be holding those until after the speaker's finished, and then we're going to be delivering those. So Roxana is going to be walking through and taking waters. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. I'm Gwen Whitaker. I'm the owner. Is this anybody's first time coming here today? Wow, that's awesome. Welcome to Greenfare. I usually like to tell a little bit about my journey and how I got started, and then sort of what we're doing here. And then I'm going to bring Dr. Shah up to talk on the topic that everybody's interested in. I was in the IT industry for 35 years. Almost 10 years ago, I lost a partner to heart disease. And a couple of years after that, I watched a film called Forks Over Knives. And Forks Over Knives was very eye-opening to me. I always thought that I was on a healthy diet, and it really changed the way that I looked at health and nutrition. In the film, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn talks about coronary heart disease as being a dietary choice. And when you take animal products out, a lot of the problems that people have in their diets actually reverse. So it started me on this path of learning. I've been involved with 3 films now because they were so impactful to me. One was Plant Pure Nation, where I work with Dr. T. Colin Campbell. And we had a group of 45 people locally here that changed their diet for just 10 days. And it was so dramatic for people, giving them 10 days worth of plant-based food. Colin Campbell came down and did a lecture, and we watched cholesterol drop by 20 points, weight loss, people with autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. Basically, the disease went away in a very short amount of time. And so, being an engineer by trade, I like to read books and see things in research, but when you see it in practice, it's totally different. And it's one thing to read and do things in the laboratory, and it's another thing to see this happen on a day-by-day basis for people that are impacted. So that was in 2015. In probably by May that year, I started getting bottles of wine and letters from people telling me that this 10-day program had changed their life. And I decided to open a restaurant where we were delivering education around nutrition. And so Pericles Silva is the operations manager. He joined me on this crazy idea of opening a restaurant that's really focused on health. And so we opened in November 2015. So we're coming up on 4 years. We've had almost 1,000 people go through our 21-day Kickstart program now with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, so we're partnering with them. And we do classes, and we give 2 meals a day for 21 days. And during those times, we've watched people with asthma. I have all these stories, people with asthma who've been asthmatic since they were 2 years old. Within a week, the fellow was saying he could breathe again. Or people with Crohn's disease that started, and 21 days later, and then years later, they no longer have this disease. People that have been on lists for kidney replacement lists, 21 days later, and their kidney function is up to 40%. People with high PSA numbers come in 21 days later, their PSA is back to normal again. So we've got more and more of these case studies that have been more by outcome-based medicine. So I'm just starting to look into doing some research projects now. I just started a nonprofit called Greenfare Health and Wellness, and we're planning to do more of an integrated care. So I'm looking for a place right now to do this. I have a partnership with a plant-based doctor, chiropractor, masseuse, yoga, and then we're going to work with the meditation museum. So we're putting all of this together in one place, trying to do it from the Dean Ornish style, which is, if you can hit all of these different aspects of things, and you can really turn things around. Nutrition is great and it's foundational, but the other things, especially providing a community and support infrastructure, are some of the things that we're really looking to do with this. So this is a nonprofit. And we have a grant that's going to enable us to get started. So I'll know probably in about 60 days whether I've gotten the space that I've proposed, and so you'll stand by and we'll see. Hopefully that'll work out. There's another film that came out in January called Diet Fiction. I'm co-producer of that film, and in that one for a short amount of time. And then The Game Changers. Was anybody able to see that? Yay. 7 years, The Game Changers movie finally came out, and that's I'm one of the executive producers. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan. There's a number of executive producers, but it's featuring really a lot of the athletes that are doing this for optimal health, so they can perform. The number one weightlifter who went to the Olympics, Kendrick Ferris, Scott Jurek, who ran the Appalachian Trail in record amount of times, Dotsie Bausch, Lewis Hamilton, Venus and Serena Williams. Almost every sport, it sort of details how these people changed their diet and then found optimal health. So at Greenfare, what we're trying to do is offer an array of education. We have books. Almost all the authors that are here, that are featured in the books, have come here and done lectures. I do a newsletter once a month, so if you have, we've got 3 exciting things coming up in October. Josh Legini is coming in. He's one of the before and after. With went from having no chin to having a chin. He's lost hundreds of pounds, and he's been featured on Men's Fitness magazine. Dr. Jim Loomis from the Game Changers film. He's the sports doctor that was in St. Louis that won both the World Series and the NFL Super Bowl. He's going to talk about optimal diet for athletes, and we're going to do a live podcast. And then I think it's the second week in October, Cortland Malloy from the Washington Post, who some of you have probably read, he's done maybe half a dozen articles on plant-based living. He did the Kickstart in January, and he's lost 50 pounds. He went from sort of being sedentary to running. He'll run 5Ks with us. We're planning to do a 5K in October, and playing tennis. So he really went and got his life back, which is very cool. So he's been on board with this, and he just wrote a great article about the Game Changers movie a couple weeks ago, and he'll be doing a live interview with Gene Bauer from Farm Sanctuary in the middle of October. So those are some of the things that we have coming up. We do dinner and a movie every month, so we're showing Plant Codes. If anybody hasn't seen that, that's an interview with a lot of the leaders in this space. We're going to be showing that. Mike Young, who is a co-host at the Fairfax Veg Fest with me, has got this Florida ceiling TV screen now, so when you come to movie night, it's completely different and pretty exciting. So thanks to Mike. And we're also getting ready to do the 2020 Fairfax Veg Fest on April 19th. And we've got this year, in addition to T. Colin Campbell and Neil Barnard, Dr. Michael Greger's going to be there, Dr. Jim Loomis, Gene Bauer, Cortland Malloy. We're going to do live podcasts again. We've got bands and cooking demonstrations, so it'll be a lot of fun. So that's what's sort of coming up. And I wanted to express deep appreciation for Dr. Nandita Shah for coming and spending an afternoon on a beautiful Sunday here with us. And her family is hosting her as she completes, I guess, a week-long visit in the United States from India. And her story is very compelling, I think similar. She lost her mother when she was 25 years old, and her mother was only 50. And so that is always at the back of your mind. I think when you're looking at purpose-based mission, it really has huge impact when it's personal in nature. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Shah, and I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you so much, Gwen. And I also want to thank Sharon and her husband for bringing me here, and Raj and my brother Raj and my sister-in-law Pam, where I'm staying with them and they are helping me with everything. And all of you who helped set it up, and I'm really honored to be here because I've seen the work that she's doing, and it's just amazing. And I know how hard it is because it's against the grain, Everyone's doing something else, and we're trying to do something really good, but nobody really understands. It takes a lot of work, right? So, I want to tell you about Sharan. Sharan stands for Sanctuary for Health and Reconnection to Animals and Nature. And the reason I named the organization this is Sharan also stands for protection or protection sanctuary. It's a Hindi word. and it's an acronym for Sanctuary for Health and Reconnection to Animals of Nature. And I lived in Mumbai. Has anyone been to Mumbai? Okay, so you know that it's a concrete jungle. It's a small island with a lot of people and big buildings and cars and nothing else. And I got very sick. I actually had Guillain-Barré, which is an autoimmune disease, complete body paralysis. And when I got well, which I did without any medicines, when I got well, I decided that I have to listen to what my body is telling me. And I think that total paralysis means at least slow down, right? And I was working really hard. I had a busy practice in Mumbai. I was traveling all over the world to teach, and I was forced to stop all of that. And I realized that the only way I could get away from all my patients and all my busy schedule was to move out of Bombay, which I did. I moved to a tiny village called Auroville on the southeast coast of India, and I live in a little house surrounded by nature on the beach. And when I moved in my house, a cat moved in with me the very same day. And I started observing animals and nature and animals in nature, and I realized that animals know how to keep themselves healthy. Like, I wasn't feeding the cat who moved in with me, we were just living together, you know. And I realized that the animals know how to heal themselves, they know how to take care of themselves. How come we get so sick? And I started observing animals in nature more and more. And when I realized that, you know, in general we get some disease, we go to doctors, but medicines never cure, right? Medicines never cure lifestyle diseases, but the body always works to heal. For example, if we get diabetes, we go to doctor gives us medicines, tells us to cut down carbohydrates and sugar, but nobody gets results with that really, right? And that's because sugar is not the cause of diabetes. The result of diabetes is high blood sugar. The cause is insulin resistance. So we always have to work at the level of cause if we want to get well. As Gwen was saying, you know, my mother passed away from cancer when she was just 50 years old. And that story is very interesting, and I think you'll resonate with it, that my mother had thyroid cancer. And actually 1 year or 2 years before that, we went to get a regular medical checkup, complete body checkup done, which some hospital was doing for free. They invited you to get a complete body checkup. And they said that if something's wrong, we will let you know. But they never let us know about anything, so nothing was wrong. And the next year we went again, and she got the complete body checkup. And then they got back to us and said, you know, there's a lesion in the lungs. And they looked at the last year's x-rays, and the lesion was exactly the same size. And so we all decided, I was a doctor by then, we all decided that this was not cancer because cancer grows. It won't stay the same size for 1 year, most likely, right? But anyway, we got it investigated, we found out that it was actually a secondary from thyroid cancer. Anyhow, my mother had a goiter, and she had been operated for that goiter when I was just 8 years old, so a long time ago. And so we got back to that hospital, and they had the records, and they saw that there were cancer cells in the thyroid at that time. Now look at this. Until she got to know that this was actually cancer, there were no symptoms at all. We just went there to get a checkup done, and she didn't have any problem. But the moment she was diagnosed, all the problems started. And then she didn't live very long. one of the biggest killers is fear. And the only way we can overcome fear is with knowledge, right? And actually, now I've worked with so many cancer patients, and in my country at least, the number of cases of cancer is multiplying at a very astronomical rate, you know. And so now I've had the chance to work with several cancer patients, many cancer patients, and not all of them have recovered, but some have recovered beautifully, and it's taught me what works and what doesn't work more and more. Every single patient teaches a doctor a lot. So what's really important though is not to be scared, to get as much knowledge as you can. Is there anyone here who's actually working with cancer? Okay, great. So I hope that I'll be able to help you a lot, because you know, this is something that I feel very deeply about, because my mother died of cancer. And when we were young in India, when I was studying to be a doctor, we were taken to Tata Memorial, which was at that time the only cancer hospital in India. It was in Bombay, and I was studying in Bombay. And there our professor said to us, you should not pay too much attention to cancer, because the problems of India are not cancer. Very few people have cancer here, but the real diseases are infectious diseases and malnutrition. And so you should focus on that, because cancer is not even common. Today, it's the other way around. We actually have a train called the Cancer Express, which picks up all the patients from Punjab, which is a big farming area because of all the pesticides that are used, and takes them to a big cancer hospital. It's an overnight journey, but it takes them to a big cancer hospital. So things have changed so much in just these years. I became a doctor in 1981, and things have changed in just that much time, less than 40 years, right? So, but I believe that we can conquer cancer with knowledge. Now, what is cancer? And cancer is the uncontrolled growth of an undifferentiated cell. So normally you see cells multiply, and then the cells which aren't needed just die or commit suicide. So that you always have the same number of skin cells, or you always have the same number of body cells that you need to have. But in cancer, they just exponentially multiply so that you get a tumor. And undifferentiated in the sense that, you know, we have skin cells, we have eye cells, we have hair cells, but in cancer, it's not differentiated. They are undifferentiated cells. Is there anyone here who's from the medical profession? Okay, and you are?
Nursing. Not
No.
nursing.
Nursing. Okay, that's close enough, right? Okay, so yeah, just to know. And anyone from nutrition? Okay, I know 2 Food for Life instructors, and so am I. I actually did the Food for Life instructors program, and the reason I did it was because I want to train many other people to do the same work in India. So what PCRM is doing here, we are doing in India. So cancer can be can you all see this back there? Yeah, cancer could start in one part of the body and go to another part of the body. For example, cancer from the intestines can go to the liver, or a cancer from the kidneys could go to the lungs, and so on. That's what happened with my mother. And is cancer genetic? And it can be, or the predisposition to cancer can be, but actually most of the cancers happen during our lifetime, and so we do have the power to prevent or reverse cancer. Now, in general, when we get cancer, we go to the doctor diagnoses it, and then doctor prescribes some kind of treatment, which could be chemotherapy. And chemotherapy just means chemicals are injected into the body, and chemotherapy is a systemic therapy. That means whatever you inject goes all over the body. And so chemotherapy is a kind of medicine which affects fast-growing cells. Cancer cells are fast-growing cells, but so are blood cells and hair cells, and that's why chemotherapy is likely to cause, white blood cell levels to fall, or red blood cell levels to fall, or hair to fall, and so on and so forth, right? So when we take chemotherapy is also actually a poison, right? But it's effective, it's good because it buys time. Chemotherapy can help by killing all the cancer cells so that we have time to recover. Now, we should always think about the pros and cons of this, because I've seen people who they don't have any symptom, but they go in for chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy, the treatment, is worse than the disease. Now, in such cases where the patient is really healthy, it may be wiser to do something else instead of go for chemotherapy. And I've seen patients who come to me and they say, I've been diagnosed with cancer. And I say, okay, come on, let's do something about it, and I can help you. And they say, oh no, but my doctor has advised chemotherapy. I'll see you after that. And then they go in for the chemotherapy and forget all about me. And 2 years later, they meet me again and they say, I've got a recurrence of cancer. And I say, okay, let's do something about that. And they say, the doctor has advised chemotherapy again. And I say, but you already know that chemotherapy doesn't work. And they say, well, it worked for 2 years. And that's not the kind of results we're hoping for, right? So we have to really think about what's working and what's not, because chemotherapy has a lot of side effects as well. Can you read back there? So then I don't have to read this out to you. There are so many side effects all over the body from chemotherapy. And whenever we do anything to the body has to recover. Like if you get an injury, the body takes time to recover. If you go in for surgery, body needs time to recover, right? And when we do chemotherapy, when we put chemicals into the body needs time to recover from that shock. And it takes time. So it is good. It's a multifaceted thing, because it is good, it buys time, but it's not good if we don't need to buy time, right? And over 80% of oncologists say that they would never give chemotherapy to their family members just because it produces such severe symptoms. But then there's another kind of treatment, and that's radiotherapy. And radiotherapy is actually X-rays. Focused X-rays that burn the tumor. And everyone knows that X-rays cause cancer. But when we have cancer, this is one of the powerful treatments. And actually it's not as toxic perhaps as chemotherapy, but it's as toxic as a burn. If you get a burn in your body takes time to recover, right? So radiotherapy has fewer side effects, and they're the kind of side effects that you would expect if a part of your body was burnt. And so that's good too, provided we are going to get the results we're expecting. If it's actually going to reduce our immunity so that we have to recover from that and the potential recurrence of cancer, it's not so great. And then there's surgery. And surgery means you just go in and cut out the tumor. And once again, this too is a fabulous way to buy time, but you can't solve a problem, just like you can't solve diabetes by cutting out sugar, which is not the cause. You can't solve the problem of cancer without removing the cause of cancer. And so when someone gets cancer, we should try to understand what is the cause and how can we get rid of the cause so that the body can work to heal cancer on its own. And there are all kinds of alternative treatments. There's, homeopathy and Ayurveda. And I was actually practicing homeopathy before. Now I don't practice anything because I realize that all medicines never really cure. The only way to get a cure is remove the cause. So, but homeopathy and Ayurveda and acupuncture and so many other kinds of therapies, and all of them are good. Anything that can bring relief is definitely good, but we shouldn't think that it's a cure because the cause of the cancer is not lack of acupuncture. The cause of the cancer is not lack of homeopathy, right? So we can do all of these, but we should always think about what is the cause. Okay, so logical cancer prevention and reversal should be finding the cause of the cancer and removing it. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's think about what are the causes of cancer. And one of them is nutrition, and I'll talk about that soon. And then chemicals. Chemicals are carcinogens. And then medicines. Believe it or not, medicines are chemicals. And chemicals are carcinogens many times. Right? And acidosis. Our body is alkaline, and so we need to keep our body alkaline. Cancer cells can easily thrive in an acid environment. Or let me put it this way, our normal cells can't thrive in an acid environment, but cancer cells can. Our normal cells can't thrive with less oxygen, but cancer cells can. So we need to improve oxygenation and reduce acidosis. And then electromagnetic frequencies and stress. Stress is a big cause, and I talked to you about the fear with my mother. And then lack of sleep and emotions. Emotions, especially resentment. And so we need to look at all these causes, and these are just some of the important ones. Obviously, there are even more. So let's look at nutrition. And one of the reasons that cancer has skyrocketed in my country is because we are eating and living more like Americans. I mean, more animal products, more packaged foods. When I was young, packaged foods were not available. And when I was young, milk was not easily available in a major city like Mumbai. We had ration booths for milk. But today, we've had a white revolution, and India is the largest producer of milk in the world. So things have changed a lot. Now, today we're eating things that many Americans do, which means packaged foods, things that look like this, instead of things that nature or God designed us to eat, things that look like this. Right? Can everyone see the screen easily? Okay. Now, imagine if you had a cow, what would you feed it? Grass. And if you had a lion, what would you feed it? The cow or meat, right? Okay. So we are really intelligent when it comes to someone else, right? But when it comes to us, we forget. Now, animals, I notice, they eat by instinct. They know what they're supposed to eat. For example, if you have a lioness with cubs, the cubs are sitting on the grass, but they don't try to eat the grass. They wait for their mother to bring them a kill, right? So imagine, I'm going to put you in touch with your instincts. Imagine if you were on a farm or an orchard and you see fruits and vegetables. What do you feel like doing? Picking and eating, yeah. And if you see a chicken walk by, or a goat, or a cow, does your mouth water? How many of you are already vegan? Okay, so your mouths don't water. Only sometimes, right? If it was something that was your comfort food in the past. But for the rest, does your mouth water when you actually see the animal? Whose mouth will water if they see a chicken walk by? A fox or a dog. Why? Because a dog or a fox can pounce on the chicken, tear it apart and eat it whole. They can eat skin, bones, claws, face, beak, everything. In fact, in my country, there are dog lovers who go out every night to chicken shops in the night, and pick up all the leftovers that humans don't eat and feed them to street dogs. Because dogs can eat every part of the chicken. And whose mouth would water if they saw a cow or a goat?
Lion.
Maybe a lion. So we've started eating dog food, lion food, right? No wonder we're getting sick. Now, if we see this, maybe we salivate. Why do we salivate? Because of conditioning. But we have to recognize that even though we've been conditioned to eat certain things, it's not our food. Let's go a step further. Imagine if you see green fields of wheat or rice. Do you salivate? Who would? Maybe a cow, right? So now we're eating dog food, lion food, cow food. And perfect food for us would be those foods that we are instinctively attracted to, that we can eat raw, and that actually have all the colors of the rainbow. Now, I come from a country that used to be largely vegetarian, and I noticed that vegetarians and non-vegetarians get the same diseases exactly. Diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, thyroid, PCOD, cancer, the works. And that's because meat and milk have the same properties: high protein, high fat, and no fiber. And so, whether we have meat or milk, we get the same problems. But milk is the food that every mammal produces for its young in nature. And we are not cows. So, cow's milk or any animal's milk, for example, is not for us. And instinctively we know it because every baby loves their mother's milk. But no baby loves cow's milk the first time it's given. Then mothers add sugar, cocoa. So if you go to the grocery store, you see aisles of all kinds of milk additives, and run around the child with a glass of milk. So that by the time we grow up, we believe that milk is one of the best foods. And this is just conditioning. So we are actually being conditioned by our society, our culture, and advertisements. And so I have a very simple formula to know what to eat and what not to eat. Just make a list of everything that's advertised and don't eat that. Because nobody's going to advertise things that are already in our instinct, and that's why we don't see advertisements for carrots and cucumbers or apples and oranges, but we definitely see advertisements for milk and eggs and chicken and meat and so on, right? So we should always think about what is the perfect food for us. And if we put the right fuel in our body, it's like taking a car that runs on petrol and only putting in high quality petrol. If you put in diesel, it doesn't work. So it's the same with our body, or it's the same with another animal. Like you can't give a lion grass or a cow meat, right? We've been brought up thinking that we are omnivores, but actually we're not, because we cannot eat, like every omnivore or carnivore can eat its food raw. We can't eat the foods that we eat raw, because if we did, just the bacteria would kill us. We don't have that amount of acid in our stomach to destroy the bacteria. So Sharan has a 5-point plan for nutrition, which is eat only plants, and we're actually on first stage of health where we do allow grains, just so that people don't have to transition all the way. But once you start eating healthy, the grains drop off, and you don't need them anymore as much as you may need them now. The next one is eat only whole foods. The fiber actually cleans our intestines. And one of the reasons we get cancer is because we're absorbing toxins, because when we eat animal products decay. And we have a very long intestinal tract. Our intestinal tract is 12 times the length of our spine, but a carnivore's intestinal tract is just 3 times. 3 times. Ours is 12 times. And that's because a carnivore needs to eat its prey, then it sits in the stomach for a long time as all the protein gets, first the acid destroys all the bacteria on the prey, then the stomach digests everything, the bones, the skin, every part of the animal that the animal eats, and then it goes through the intestines and out. It doesn't stay for a long time in the intestines. But when we eat, we have a stomach which is smaller and a much longer intestinal tract, and so if we eat foods that are decaying, we are going to absorb toxins. But if we eat more fiber, then the fiber is like a broom. It cleans out the intestines and keeps your intestines always clean. You can't get constipation if you're eating whole foods. And these are just some of the foods that we serve in our 21-day retreat, which I didn't speak much of because she's got a better one right here in your hometown, right? But we have a 21-day health retreat, and we do something very similar to her. All the tests in the beginning, as the patients get better, reduce medications, all the tests at the end of 21 days, look at the results, and invariably people are better in just 21 days with less medicines. And then whole means also no sugar. Sugar is not a whole product. No oil, no white rice, no white flour. It also means no peeling vegetables. We are the only species that makes our food less nutritious before eating by refining. Maximum nutrition is just under the skin, and the minute you take it out, you've lost nutrients. And nutrients are the spare parts for healing. So if you give yourself high quality nutrients, you heal. Sometimes we take supplements and throw out the nutrients, right? Which should not be done. more on that in this book called Whole, which I saw somewhere. And organic. We are the only species that sprays our food with poison so that other animals don't eat it. And then we eat it. Right? So we should really look for organic, and so it's so nice that you are a whole food, plant-based, organic cafe, restaurant. Okay. So in order to be healthy, we need high quality spare parts. Not foods for lions or cows or any other species, dogs, but food that nature has designed for us. And like all other species on the planet, we should eat our food raw if possible. As much raw as possible. Oh, sorry. So this is one of our salads. And it's a really simple salad, just a rainbow salad. But look how nice it looks, right? And you know, we never advise juices because the fiber is removed. But in the case of cancer, especially if a patient cannot eat, I just want to say that I never recommend to stop chemotherapy. I just recommend figuring out what is good and what is not good. But if someone's on chemotherapy, they can take, and if they can't eat, you know, they can take vegetable juices, freshly made, because these are high in nutrients as well. And the only thing that's lacking is fiber, or less is fiber, but there's a lot of nutrients, and the nutrients are spare parts for healing. And sometimes vegetable juices are good to give a good boost, a lot of nutrients at one shot, just to help restart the healing process. So we had a 5-point plan, I said, and that was plant-based foods, whole foods, organic foods, and check and supplement vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Vitamin B12 is only made by bacteria, and since we have a super hygienic lifestyle, which means clean water and chlorinated water sometimes is the precursor of the clean water. So clean water and everything super hygienic, we lack vitamin B12. Meat and milk are decaying substances, so they do contain vitamin B12, but when we eat meat or milk, our stomach has to produce too much acid, which destroys the intrinsic factor in the stomach, and so we can't always absorb vitamin B12. So whether you're a carnivore, omnivore, or herbivore, you can get B12 deficiency. So it's really important. And vitamin D is a hormone. It's actually a hormone produced by the action of the sun on the skin. And if we have sunscreen, clothes, windows, or even smog, it's hard to produce the vitamin D. And that's why we really need to check. Now, actually in the US, all foods are fortified. So if you're getting packaged foods, they've kind of taken care of it. They put vitamin D in orange juice and so on and so forth. But if you're going to eat real foods, then you may have a vitamin D deficiency. So it's always good to check once in a while both of these and supplement if necessary. So the 5-point plan is plant-based, whole, organic, vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Now, why do standard diets cause cancer? Actually, standard diets actually cause cancer because they reduce blood flow and oxygenation. Remember I said that we need more oxygen and more alkaline environment for normal cells, and when the environment becomes low in oxygen or acidic, then we are inviting cancer cells. Actually, cancer doesn't come on its own. We are sending out invitations. for cancer cells to grow. So this is an artery, and here you can see that over the years we are getting accumulation of fat, actually cholesterol, inside the artery, and this is caused by fat in our diet. And where does the fat come from? Oil, butter, margarine, but also all animal products. Boiled fish, fat on top, boiled chicken, fat on top, boiled milk, fat on top. No matter what you have, it's full of fat. And that's fat without fiber, because there's no fiber in animals. So when we eat food which has fat and fiber, like say avocado or nuts, the fiber holds on to the fat. And so we don't get fat lining our arteries as much as if we eat free fats, which are found in animal products and refined products. Then acid. You know, we consume certain acid foods like tea, coffee, colas. Actually, you can take a glass of Coke and cut your fingernails and put them in, and they will dissolve in 24 hours. So that's what happens to our bones when we consume colas. But also high protein breaks, animal protein or any protein breaks down in our body into amino acids. So that's acidic too. And of course alcohol and sugar and salt are also acidic. Now I want to show you, here's a chart which shows all the acid foods. They're the ones I just mentioned. Incidentally, acid foods are addictive as well. And they also make you desire more acid foods. And the food industry loves to put a little acid in everything, and loves to put a little addictive things in everything, so that we buy more. So they have a special formula: add fat, sugar, salt, and milk powder. They even put milk powder into everything so that it's more addictive, as well as MSG. And nobody writes MSG on the packets anymore. They write natural flavors, so that we aren't aware that it's MSG. But the food industry tries to, and when you buy those foods, ready-made foods, how do you feel? Have you ever noticed that you can't stop? I want to show you a video of someone, a young girl who had cancer, and she was treated by diagnosing that it wasn't actually cancer. I mean, it was cancer, but the cause was acidosis.
I thought it was like having strep or something, or like the flu, or I didn't really know.
Took her to the doctor 20 times probably, with strep, vomiting, headaches.
After getting sick, she just went back to bed like it was a normal thing to feel that way. And Julie and I just knew something was really wrong.
Went through several doctors, and they could not figure out what was wrong with her. They checked her for many things. I mean, none of the diagnoses were right. We got another doctor, and on this last visit, she decided, after I had told her Josie was experiencing these throbbing headaches now, she said, you know what, we're gonna get a CAT scan.
I came home one day, and Dr. Hart called us.
And he said, come here, you gotta come in here. And he put Dr. Hart on the phone, and she started sitting down.
Can you hear in the back?
And I said, why? She told me that they had found this spot, and that we needed to go get an MRI right away.
They said, honey, you have cancer.
Trying to explain it to her, that they're gonna have to go in and cut your head open. Well, will I feel it? No, you'll be asleep. Oh, okay. Josie's friends totally supported everything. They came to see her in the hospital when she was getting chemo, when they could, when her blood counts were up, so she wouldn't get sick. She was changing so rapidly, physically. By the time she completed all of the radiation, and 3 rounds of chemo, she was 42 pounds. But through the whole thing, she was just so sweet, as sweet as ever. In fact, she begged to go to radiation because they put her to sleep with the milk of amnesia. And she loved that because it was the only sleep she got. They found another tumor in the middle of the brain. I remember sitting in the car, Ben was crying, I was crying, looking out this window going, what? And I'm praying the whole time going, what? Am I missing something? You know, I just didn't get it.
I had to come up with something. I had to find something to save her.
When they come to me, they've had chemo, they've had radiation, and basically they said, I'm going to die.
She told me to call Dr. Bernardo and gave his phone number.
He wanted all the facts. What did she have in the beginning? What kind of surgeries did she have? What did the MRIs reveal? How much chemo has she had? How much radiation has she had? What does she weigh? And test her pH.
All the patients that I have throughout the world, first thing I do, wet their tongue with saliva, put the paper in for 5 seconds, compare it to the chart.
So we tested the pH, and it was very, very low. Didn't even register on the pH strips. And she's dying of acidosis, not cancer.
You must make the body inhospitable to the cancer cells by going on the right foods that will help the body eat out the acid.
How can I tell people that they're getting better? Because the pH goes up. Most of them are 5 or 5.5. As it goes up, lactic acid is going down, which means cancer activity is going down. The body repairs itself, but you gotta give it the stuff that you need. Most doctors have no idea that nutrition has anything to do with cancer.
After I started drinking the juices, I really started feeling better. A few months later, I went back to the hospital.
Our doctor walked in and said that it had actually shrunk by 75%.
The doctor was like, oh, how are you doing that?
Josie's funny. She's got a good sense of humor. And through this, I've always said she's my hero. She kept me going. She did. She really did. She's an awesome little inspiration to everybody. It's the best feeling a mom could ever have.
So we need to start reducing the acid in our life as soon as possible. And as I said, animal protein is actually more acidic than plant-based protein because it contains methionine, which has a sulfur molecule, but also because there's no fiber. Plants always have fiber, and so it's hard to overeat if you eat whole plants. But it's easy to overeat animal products because of the lack of fiber. So for example, you can overeat cheese or you can overeat ice cream, but it's unlikely that you overeat in carrots or cucumbers, right? Because of the fiber. And then high protein. You know, protein, what is protein good for? Why do we need protein? To build muscles. Now this is a very common answer that I get, and the truth is different. You know, we have this because everyone's going to gym and going for training, and trainers say you need more protein, buy the whey powder, right? Or eat more eggs or whatever they say. But the truth is different. Protein is the food for growth and repair. Now, if you think about it, how many of you know somebody with protein deficiency? Please put up your hand if you know someone.
Many of them I know they have protein deficiency.
Many of them have protein deficiency. Who?
Many I know, but their friends are there.
Okay, great. So you know somebody with protein deficiency, and what are the symptoms of protein deficiency?
They didn't tell me that they have a protein. The doctor told me that they have protein deficiency.
Okay. Anybody else know somebody with protein deficiency? Okay, there's always one person, but I need to know the symptoms. Does anyone know the symptoms of protein deficiency? Thank you for that. Protein deficiency has a name. It's kwashiorkor. And kwashiorkor is protein, so another name is Are you a nutritionist? A nurse. Okay, great. So protein deficiency, kwashiorkor, another name for kwashiorkor is protein calorie malnutrition. Protein deficiency only occurs in starvation. Today, we don't know someone right now who has protein deficiency because everyone is fed, right? More or less, what the people that we know, right? And that's why we don't have a huge problem of protein deficiency, we have a problem of protein excess. Protein excess causes gout, acidity, osteoporosis, because protein is acidic, it leaches calcium out of the bones. Osteoporosis, kidney disease. Actually, proteins are toxic to the kidneys. Excess protein is toxic to kidneys. And cancer. Protein is a growth. Protein is a food for growth. Cancer is a growth. If you have cancer, and I know that doctors tell you different, but if you have cancer, excess protein is actually going to fuel the cancer. And so we need to be really careful. Then, standard diets contain hormones, specifically growth hormone. For example, milk is the food for a baby calf to grow to full size in 18 months. It's full of powerful growth hormones which make us grow but also fuel the cancer. And then toxins and chemicals and pesticides, and when we consume animal products, we automatically consume more pesticides because we're consuming all the pesticides in the food that the animal ate, which is a lot. So animal products are always concentrated in pesticides and also actually in antibiotics, because antibiotics are routinely given to animals so that they don't, in the conditions that we raise them, so that they don't die. And then additives to meat, like when you buy meat, it looks as if the animal has been freshly killed. But the animal may have been killed long ago. So how come when our blood dries up, it looks brown, but when you buy meat, it looks red because of additives? And then heterocyclic amines, which are carcinogens, by cooking flesh. Boiling milk has the same effect. And then high levels of free radicals, which cause oxidation. And oxidation causes cancer. And then fat. If we have excess fat, that also causes cancer, and all animal products are full of fat. So Sharon's 5-point plan is, sorry? Oh, you want this slide again? Can I go on? So Sharon's 5-point plan is plant-based, whole, organic, vitamin B12 and vitamin D. And I just explained you why we don't want to eat the standard diet that many people eat. But that is just one of the causes of cancer, nutrition. And we said another one was acidosis, and we kind of covered that as well. And then chemicals. Chemicals are not just in our non-organic food or our ready-made foods that we buy, but it's also in personal care products. The perfumes, shampoos, deodorants, the hair dyes, the cosmetics, the shaving cream, whatever, lotions, all kinds of potions. And then home care products. And home care products, especially cleaning stuff. Actually, the BBC wrote an article about this, and it's still on the internet as everything else that went on the internet is forever. And they said that cleaning products lead to poorer lung function because we inhale them. And so they recommend cleaning everything with a microfiber cloth and warm water and vinegar or soda bicarb, but perhaps we don't need all these super chemicals. And then this is another one. And today we are facing a big problem with this because this is going into our landfill and water is going through the landfill and coming back to us. But also it's going into the sea and coming back to us through the fish. But it's not just the fish. The fish is dried up and fed to animals in our food chain, all the fish that we don't eat, because fish is caught with trawlers. There's so many varieties that we don't eat. It's all dried up and fed back to animals in our food chain. In fact, even slaughterhouse byproducts are dried up and fed back to animals in the food chain through rendering plants. And then medicines. There are actually medicines which are carcinogenic. So, and medicines of course are chemicals too. And that's one other reason to be healthy in general, not wait to get cancer to start getting healthy. And then electromagnetic frequencies. And that's all of this. The microwaves, the mobile phones, and all the remotes and everything that we use. And now we have a big threat because we have 5G that's going to come. And that's something totally different from 4G. And then stress. Stress is a big cause as well. And I want to say one thing about stress here. That when we are stressed, we produce adrenaline. Have you heard of adrenaline? And when animals are stressed, they produce adrenaline. No matter how the animal is raised, when it goes through the slaughterhouse, there's always stress. No matter what animal product you eat, you are getting adrenaline back in your food. And we are seeing a lot of stress these days, and a lot of depression as well. Now, if we stop eating animal products, automatically stress reduces. Has anyone here experienced that? If you have, just put your hand up. Okay, no one yet? All you vegans, you haven't experienced this? Okay, 1, 2, okay. So, it's worth trying. Be on a completely plant-based diet and see what it does to your state of mind. And then, lack of sleep and lack of exercise. And I do want to say that exercise is as important as sleep. In fact, your body only heals when you're asleep. So if you don't get good few hours of rest, especially from 10 to 4 in the night, then your healing is compromised. And we all know that we heal when we are sleeping, because when you get fever, what do you feel like doing? Your body just tells you, take rest, right? And then emotions, especially resentment. And so what we need to learn to do is forgive. Forgive, 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 because nothing is worth, when we have resentment, who is it eating up? Ourselves, right? And then there are viruses which we can't do anything about, so we can skip that right now. And of course, pollution, which at least we can stop adding to. And so it's really nice to see that you have glasses, and real plates and all of that. Now, why should I change my lifestyle right now? Because if we live the way we were designed to eat and live by God or nature, then automatically we're going to be healthy and not go towards cancer? Why should we start working on it once we have it? Now, I just want to share with you some references so that if you'd like to learn more, you can go back and look at those. And I'm actually going to start with one of our patients who has started a WhatsApp group for people who have cancer, and this is not so relevant to all of you because this is in India, but I do want you to see her story.
I was advised immediate surgery, full mastectomy.
Can you hear?
And radiation. But on researching, I came to know that chemotherapy is highly, highly toxic for the body. In fact, it causes cancer because it cannot kill the cancer stem cells and it does cause cancer. Radiation is again very, very bad. So I was looking for a solution which will let food be my medicine. And thank God in the very same month of May, I could find Sharan. And through Sharan's diet, I'm also doing naturopathy and homeopathy, but that came much later. Naturopathy was at the beginning. But my main is the food is my medicine, and I'm following it very, very nicely, very strictly, and very lovingly actually. Enjoying every day, every meal, loving my life, and thank God I have not visited any oncologist. And lumps in the breast have now reduced by half. I'm working, I go to the gym. Let's tell people that okay, I was diagnosed with cancer. Nobody believes it because looking at me, of course, nobody can come to know. I was given only 45 days to live. So this was a year back, and it's in May, that is. More than a year now, and I'm happily living my life. That's right. Second life. No, they said that's the cancer, you get a death sentence.
So actually, she was given 45 days to live if she didn't go through all the chemo and all of that. And she just stopped going to oncologists and took her health into her own hands. She didn't miss even one day of work. And now it's 2.5 or 3 years. So this was in May 2018. She said that it's 2 years. So it's 3.5 years or over 3 years now. And she said that, and now her tumors have gone completely and she hasn't faced any problem and she's helping so many people get well. This is one more person and she did undergo chemotherapy.
Hi, I'm Shruti and I'm a fashion designer by profession. In 2016, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a cancer of the immune system. And obviously the word cancer scared me to hell. I didn't know what to do, how to start. And in 2017, after doing various other treatments, natural treatments, I had to take resort to chemotherapy. But during chemotherapy, I figured out and I went through a lot of other cancer patients' YouTube videos, and I pounded upon Dr. Nandita's books and her videos, also other nutritionist videos, and I heard about plant-based diet. So I included into my daily life a whole plant-based diet, and after the second or third chemo, I suddenly was not nauseous at all, and my recovery was better after the chemotherapy. So, and my energy levels were very good. And after the fourth chemo, my reports were all good. My doctors were amazed, like how can stage 2, almost on the verge of 3, can get recover so fast. And my nauseousness just went because I was eating a lot of alkaline foods. And I was eating raw as well. I mean, I was eating organic raw foods, which was absolutely no during chemotherapy. And I was recovering faster.
Actually, in India, the doctors tell us not to have raw foods either because we can get infection from raw foods. So she switched to low protein, high raw diet and got well.
I was feeling much better, very positive. I was still working during my chemotherapy because my energy levels, were getting better and better. And after the chemotherapy, I didn't have to take radiation, which was a big relief for me because I was scared to death that, what now the doctor tells me to take radiation. So I decided not to take radiation, and after a year, I am absolutely fine in front of you all. And after the chemotherapy, obviously the body gets depleted of nutrition, but taking this whole plant-based diet absolutely changed my life. I'm a better person right now. I'm a healthier version of myself. I have so much energy. The energy doesn't only transcends into food, but also in your thinking. So, now I'm working into sustainability. I do want to spread this message across people and want people to get healthier, at least get aware of this and how this lovely diet can change everybody's life. So do consider this plant-based diet. It will just change your life. Thank you.
Then there's Chris Walk, who's here in the US, and he's written a book, Chris Beat Cancer, and I would highly recommend. He also suffered from stage 4 cancer and has looked after himself. And then there's Dr. Lorraine Day. Have you heard of Dr. Lorraine Day? So the reason I'm showing this is because she is a doctor, she is an orthopedic surgeon, and she suffered from breast cancer. And when her cancer was diagnosed, the cancer was the size of a marble. But it grew to the size of a grapefruit. And she was advised to have a mastectomy. And she decided not to because she said, the cause of my breast cancer is not that I have too many breasts. And I'm going to work at the cause only. And she actually healed herself and has helped many others, and this is a long story, many years.
Dr. Lorraine Day did something most people haven't had the courage to do. When diagnosed with cancer, she decided to heal herself without the aid of the medical community. What makes this story particularly interesting is that she herself is a highly respected orthopedic surgeon.
Well, that's right. I developed cancer in 1992 with a very small lump. I actually thought you can cut cancer out. Now I know you cannot cut cancer out and get rid of it that way, because all the factors that allow the cancer to develop are still present in your body unless you change the way you're eating and living and everything about your life. Now, disease is a spiritual problem. It starts in your heart because you want to eat and live the way you want to eat and live rather than the way God has designed us to eat and live. I had to learn that, and I started studying the Bible. I was not healed miraculously. I was healed the way anybody else can be healed. It was a long, hard struggle and a very regimented plan, and it took 18 months for me to get well. For 2 years, I was getting worse and worse and worse, and people say, well, how did you follow your progress? Well, I followed my progress by getting worse and worse and worse. But I still would not go to the conventional doctors because I had seen too many thousands of patients die from the treatment we give them. Chemotherapy is poison. It causes cancer. Every doctor knows that. Radiation, doctors will tell you, don't get too many x-rays. X-rays cause cancer. But when you have cancer, then they say, we have to give you huge doses of what we told you to avoid because it causes cancer. Well, it's because doctors don't know how to treat cancer. We're never taught.
So she has a 10-point plan, which I'd like to share with you because I think it's really important. And it has an acronym, New Start AB. N is for nutrition, E for exercise, then water, plenty of water, sunshine, temperance, which means no bad habits. Let go of the tea, coffee, alcohol, whatever. Then fresh air, rest at the right time. There's a reason it's dark at night. Trust in God Trust in God or nature. Nature knows how to heal you. An attitude of gratitude and benevolence. Benevolence means share that knowledge. The more you teach, the more you learn, right? Okay. So I want to go real fast now because my time is up. But I do want to point you in the direction of Louise Hay. Have you heard of Louise Hay? She also suffered from cancer. And she, of course, she went on the right diet, but she focuses on changing your state of mind. And I highly recommend this book, You Can Heal Your Life. And then Chris Carr. Have you heard of Chris Carr?
Yes.
Who's written Crazy Sexy Life and Crazy Sexy Kitchen and Crazy Sexy Diet. And she suffered from cancer when she was just 31 and decided to change her life to cure her cancer. And I also like this book very much. Cancer is not a disease. It's a survival mechanism because you have created conditions where only cancer cells can survive. So if we can change those conditions, we can get rid of cancer. And this is by Andreas Moritz. Andreas Moritz. And the China study, which is even available here. And I'm going to skip this video. So in summary, get rid of the fear of cancer. Replace fear with knowledge. Then Sharon's 5-point plan. Does anyone remember Sharon's 5-point plan? That was plant-based, whole, organic, vitamin B12 and D, and Dr. Lorraine Day's 10-point plan.
New starting.
Okay, so nutrition, exercise, water,
Sleep.
sunshine, temperance,
Trust in God.
air, fresh air, not all the time air conditioned,
Benevolence.
rest at the right time,
Trust in God.
trust in God,
Attitude of gratitude.
attitude of gratitude and benevolence. Trust in God or nature or your body. You are God. Okay? Oh, sorry. And then minimize the chemicals in your life. Most of us are using too many chemicals. Work on stress and work on your emotions. Disease is actually a path to personal growth. That's what I found out when I got my Guillain-Barré. So just a few final thoughts. The definition of cancer is an unregulated overgrowth of undifferentiated cells, ultimately harming and destroying the very organism on which it grows. And just as we have cancer, we are getting cancer, we are a kind of cancer on our planet, right? Because this is an undifferentiated overgrowth. This is an undifferentiated overgrowth. So is this. And the result of this is that the blue is the amount of livestock we have on the planet, the green is the wild animals left on the planet, and the red is the number of humans. Isn't that sad? We are killing 70 billion land animals every year to feed our 7 billion. And that's just land animals, not even sea animals, right? So reversing disease requires a shift in consciousness from a culture of death or disease to a culture of health or life. And what do we do to help that? We do all kinds of talks and specific seminars. We also have phone and Skype consultations. We have publications, and 2 of them are here. We have 6-week programs, and there's so many programs similar to PCRM that I don't really have to mention all of them. And we can support you through our website, our Facebook, and so on, but really we can also support you through our newsletters And if you would like to be on our mailing list, you can write your name, email there. We also have a WhatsApp broadcast list, so you get a little tip every day, sometimes a recipe, sometimes food for thought, and so on. And that's it from me. I want to leave you with our website address and also our email address. Website is sharanindia.org. And can I open for questions?
You're willing to stay for questions? We're going to start bringing food out.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Let's go ahead and have interactive questions now.
Great. Yes.
So I hear that a lot of kids, young kids.
Okay, if you can speak real loud so that everyone can hear as well. Okay.
Thank you. So I hear in news and other media that a lot of kids, and really young kids, right, who probably are too young to get it from food and nutrition. I mean, they are getting cancer. So what do you think causes cancer in really young kids?
Actually, we are living in cancer now, right? I mean, honestly, plastic is a carcinogen, right? So it's also the nutrition that the mother had during pregnancy, the kind of childbirth, all of this is connected.
Thank you.
As you saw, we saw a video of a young girl.
Yeah.
This is acidosis, right? Just changing the diet. Don't you think that many children are fed something that is carcinogenic daily? Yes. If you have your hand up, he'll come to you with the mic, and the person with the mic can speak.
Sure. How is your message being received in India? Or let's say cancer is a late arrival. I'll let you take it from there.
Right. So, I have to tell you that we don't work only with cancer, we work with all kinds of diseases. When I became a doctor, 5% of the population had diabetes, today it's 35%. So things are moving in the same way as things are moving here in the US. When I became vegan, there were 5 vegans in India and one of them was my father. So I knew 3 others. But today we have vegan restaurants, vegan entrepreneurs, and yet it's very, very slow. We build a new hospital every day and they are all full. Anyone else?
Is vinegar good or bad?
So the way you can figure this out is just think of it this way. Is it a man-made substance or a God-made substance? And if it's a man-made substance, let's leave it out. Or another way to think of it is, monkeys are our nearest relatives, primates, right? Would monkeys eat vinegar? Probably not, because they can't make it. And therefore, let's leave the vinegar out. Now, having said that, a little vinegar as a condiment, if it helps you eat a big salad, is not so bad, right? But let's not have glasses of apple cider vinegar and water. That's questionable. Yes, here.
In the stomach, you have hydrochloric acid to help digest food. So that's an acid that does some good.
Right. And so, we need acid in the stomach to digest protein. But if we need to take excess acid, then perhaps we're taking excess protein, right? I mean, let's trust that nature or God, like trust in God, trust that nature or God has given us everything that we need to digest and absorb. Yes.
Or just an observation.
One sec.
Oh, sorry. Just an observation. I noted that a lot of carnivores, they don't see the colors we see. We see red and yellow and orange for ripe fruits. They don't see that. Because they don't approach it.
Right.
We just have a different chemistry, visual.
Right. And so we should look at what we are attracted to, and obviously we're attracted to the colors. Like if you see this wonderful salad, automatically it's attractive because of all the colors. Yeah. Okay, and then there was one question there. Yes. Okay, and please feel free to start eating your meal. Yes.
I just wanted you to expand on the juicing a little bit more, because I have watched a lot of the stuff with Chris Beats Cancer, and I feel like juicing has been very helpful to me recently. Now I am taking the pulp that's extracted from the juices and turning it into little veggie patties and eating those. But I believe you said it was the fiber coming out that you didn't like about juicing.
Okay, so you're having your fiber as well, and actually we use juicing whenever someone can't eat, or even if someone's being fed with a Ryle's tube, juicing is the way. So juicing is a way to deliver high amount of nutrients, and so it can be very good, especially if your body has been depleted of nutrients. It can be really good. The only bad thing about juicing is that you're losing the fiber, but still it can be effective. So I'm not against juicing. As you saw, I also showed a video of a young girl taking vegetable juice. But juicing means vegetable juices, not fruit juices. Yeah? Thank you.
One more too, sorry. I watched the whole series on the truth about cancer, and there's so many amazing things in that docuseries. I know I'm kind of experimenting with everything, but they talk about green tea, and you mentioned that tea was too acidic, and then they have coffee enemas, and coffee is acidic. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So, as I said, I never recommend either of these two. Right? Green tea has a lot of antioxidants, but so do all fruits and vegetables. So I never recommend. Would you give your child green tea? No. Would you give your child coffee enemas? I mean, someone says that red wine is good for you. Do we give our children red wine? There's a reason we don't give it, right? Because we kind of know back then. So one of the ways to, tea and coffee grow in acidic soil. Actually, fruits and vegetables can't even grow in that soil. So this is not our food. Thank you. Okay, if there's nobody else, then please enjoy your meal. Also, I want to tell you that we do have this sheet out here. So if you'd like to put your name and email address and phone number for either any of our lists, you can. And then we do have these books and this cookbook, and these are slightly India oriented, but it's not just Indian recipes. So you can have a look at the recipes before you buy it. So this cookbook is for $10, and this Reversing Diabetes in 21 Days is for $12.
Can we have a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you for all your attention, and wish you all perfect health, which is your potential and birthright.
Thanks again. Give us a little bit of patience, and we'll have all the food out shortly here. But please give another round of applause for Dr. Shah.